The two top races in Nevada this year are essentially tied, according to a new poll published today in the Reno Gazette-Journal Newspaper.
No contests for U.S. Senate and the governor's office are both within 1 percentage point in the poll, which was conducted by Suffolk University. Politics Now co-host Steve Sebelius has been poring over all of those numbers and joins us now live. Steve?
Well, Brian and Christiane, it is a dead heat at the top of the ticket in Nevada. Incumbent Republican Senator Dean Heller leads his Democratic opponent, Congresswoman Jackie Rosen, 41% to 40%. And in the race for governor, Republican Attorney General Adam Laxalt is just barely ahead of his Democratic foe, Clark County Commissioner Steve Sisolak. That race is Laxalt 41.6, Sisolak 41. And when you consider the poll's margin of error is 4.4 percentage points, it's clear these races are as close to tied as they could possibly be. Now, the race for governor is especially close when you consider Laxalt is only ahead by 1 percentage point in swing Washoe County. That's where he lives. The Democratic path for success in statewide elections in recent years includes staying as even as possible with the Republican candidate in Washoe, while also boosting turnout in Democrat-rich Clark County. Another problem for Laxalt may be gun background checks. 60% of people in the poll reported they were gun owners, and 68% said they wanted background checks that were narrowly approved by voters in 2016 put into effect. The measure's been stalled because it calls on the FBI to conduct those checks, which the agency has refused to do. That's because Nevada already conducts background checks that include the federal database. And although Laxalt didn't write the measure and he can't do anything about the FBI's position, he's been blamed by Democrats for not making it happen. Now, in the race for U.S. Senate, Rosen trails Heller by 9 points up in Washoe County. That's a deficit she will have to make up by Election Day. One bright spot for Rosen might be health care, which voters identified as their top issue in the Senate race. Heller's been criticized repeatedly because he pledged not to vote for a bill that took away health care provided by the Affordable Care Act before eventually voting for a failed Republican repeal bill. Heller's also upside down in his favorability ratings. 39% said they like Heller, while nearly 42% disapprove. And while the poll found more people like Rosen than dislike her, 16% said they didn't recognize her at all. That's the highest don't recognize percentage of any person holding or running for statewide office this year. The poll also found that most Nevadans were upbeat about the economy and optimistic about the future. That could help incumbents such as Heller, but the result I enjoyed most was the answer to a question about corruption. 64% think Nevada is extremely, very, or at least somewhat corrupt, while a benighted 24% think there's no, or at least not very much corruption in the Silver State. New arrivals, I think.
And less than 1% using the word benighted, but you got it in there, Steve. Well done.
That's right. If that's your word of the day at home,
without a doubt. Well, the poll also, Steve, measured people not on the ballot. Who was the most popular and least popular public official in the state?
That's right. And believe it or not, Donald Trump didn't make either. The least popular person, that's former Senator Harry Reid. He had an unfavorable rating of 53%. Wow. That's the highest of anybody who they measured. And the most popular is Governor Brian Sandoval. His popularity is at 57% in this poll. And in other polls, he's up there around 62. So he is extremely popular and remains so.
With those levels of popularity, you almost wonder if Sandoval at some point would consider a higher run president.
Yeah, absolutely. He just seems to have no interest in any electoral office, Senate, president, anything beyond that.
All right, thanks, Steve.
For now.
For now.
Thanks, Steve.
Key words, right?
Well, still ahead.